Well, hello, everybody. Here we are on our very
Radio.
show. Hi there. We turned her off, and she still came on. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first show. How exciting is this? Conscious Connections with Veronica Torres, Trainor.
Hello.
And Eloheim recorded. We have Eloheim, but they're recorded for us to enjoy the things they've said recently, but I get to be with you guys instead of Eloheim, at least in our inaugural show. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you guys are interested in talking to us, go ahead and call whenever you're ready. You can also Skype in. The instructions are there someplace on Blog Talk. They seem to be pretty friendly about working that out for everybody. So the reason we decided to start this show was to give an opportunity to have further discussions about the things that Eloheim wants to talk about and teach us about. And we do that through Facebook and Yahoo groups and email a lot, but it felt like it would be a really nice thing to be able to do it collectively in this fashion. So I was very excited to go ahead and make the show and to launch it today. Now, we thought the first show would be really great is to talk about fear because, you know, we're all set up here in the fear-based operating system and dealing with fear all the time and having lots of opportunities to experience, you know, ways to interact with fear and ways to experience fear. So I thought it might be nice just to let Eloheim start our show off a little bit and talk about fear. So I'm going to run a clip and I'll be right back.
Is fear always going to be a part of being human?
This is the way we see it going down. Because you have a body, because you have a survival instinct, fear will always be a part of you. But you'll catch the fact that you're afraid before it gets into this habitual place. You won't cover it up with other substances. You'll face it. And you'll recognize that even when you're afraid, you can choose to be fascinated by the experience rather than go into habit about the experience. Well, there we go. Eloheim explaining it right up to the start off the show. And the idea here is that there's a choice. There's always a choice between fear and fascination. And it's really easy to go with the idea that there is no choice, that we are stuck with whatever it is that we feel. And the idea that we feel it, so therefore it's real. And it's happening emotionally, therefore it's not negotiable. And Eloheim spent a lot of time over the last 10 years talking about how to experience yourself in more of a choosing place, in more of a creator place, and allowing yourself to experience fear as another choice of life, another life choice. Now, a lot of people will be like, there's no way, I can't possibly choose, it's just overwhelming. And I've certainly felt that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's also that sense that just you'll never have a different experience unless you start having a different experience. And so when it's not one of those big, huge tsunami kind of fears, allowing yourself to say, hey, maybe this one is a choice, like the choice to be on the radio today and the fears that might have been associated with that.
Yes, and part of my issue actually is working on taking that conscious step. It's so easy to get stuck in the fear and just let it circulate over and over. And one day I'll catch it, but then the next day it'll occur over and over again.
And, of course, we call that habit or hamster wheel thinking. And I like how Eloheim teaches that when we make different choices, we actually are using new parts of our brain.
Right.
And that takes such commitment. And I love when a small thing will come up that I can grab a hold of and say, well, here I know I can make a choice. Here I know I can make a choice. Like for me, it would be being in groups of people. You know, that's been very scary for me in the past because of my sensitivities, energetic sensitivities. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to go into this group of people, and I know I'm going to feel fear. I know I'm going to be uncomfortable. It's a guaranteed thing, so I can make choices about that discomfort rather than just be overwhelmed by it.
And what would the choice be? What would your first choice be?
Going into a group of people is to stay in touch with what my body is telling me. And it might seem counterintuitive, the idea that you stay in touch with what your body's telling you, especially if your body's telling you to be afraid. Right. But even being aware that my body says be afraid, but saying there's really nothing to be afraid of. In the sense of, like Eloheim talks about, there's no knife to your neck or gun to your temple. It's just I feel like I might be overwhelmed. And then keep checking in. That, for me, that's the big one, to keep checking in and saying, how am I feeling? Is my ability to keep choosing out of the habit of going to fear, keeping ahead of the body going, no way, we're in charge, freak out.
Right. Right. Have you ever sort of fled?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've definitely fled. I have definitely fled. I've definitely fled group experiences and just overall large energy spaces, or found ways to sort of limit the number of people that I'm interacting with or number of energies I'm interacting with. People who are really in their own energy don't tend to trip me out. It's the people who are in more of a space of they let their insecurities or anxieties fly out. Like the way I see it is like when you're casting a fishing rod. Mm-hmm. It's like if somebody's anxious or freaked out or nervous or just being unconscious in whatever way, it's like they're fishing. Like the fishing line keeps getting thrown out. Sometimes I feel like I'm dodging dodging it. And after a while, you can get kind of exhausted. I can get exhausted dodging it, as well as the idea that if there's lots of them,
right,
it can feel like a shooting gallery, right. And I'm the target. Yeah.
Well, so can we talk about anxiety itself? Because I know that some folks that are listening now have talked about just a general anxiety, mm-hmm. and how to deal with that. I mean, I know when I had something in an airport, I started where I was anxious and having repetitive thoughts, I used the notebook tool, which was really, really helpful for me to be able to see how often I did it, how often I had this thought, and to kind of break that cycle. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can talk generally about it, and also maybe about that tool. I don't know if you feel like that's an important tool to talk about now.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And the notebook tool is primarily the idea of write it down, right? Just write it down how often you're having that feeling of, I need to be afraid here. And recognizing sometimes you can even put context around, all I'm doing is sitting in a chair at the airport, but I feel like someone's threatening my life. I feel like my life is being threatened. Mm-hmm. And fear oftentimes will go to the place of your life is in danger. Eloheim says, you're going to get dead. So you feel like you're in that much peril when nothing is happening.
Right.
Literally nothing's happening.
Right.
So, it's an internal process. And so that documenting that internal process allows you to experience with a different outlook what your inner world's doing. And if you just let your inner world cast the fishing rod over and over again, but if you say, oh, my God, I've cast that fishing rod 5 times in 5 seconds.
Right. I mean, it was really helpful for me to write down the time that I had the thought. And then I could see that at the beginning it was like every minute, and then it went to every 5 minutes, because I would insert what is true now, mm-hmm. and really pull myself back. And then it was every 10 minutes, and then it kind of stopped. Mm-hmm. And it was shocking, really. I mean, I was like, this stuff works. But I can still wake up every morning sort of anxious. Mm-hmm. So kind of working on how to deal with fears of that kind of generalized, unspecific mm-hmm. anxiety.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this, that mm-hmm. sometimes, especially when I'm headed to bed in the evening, as I walk from one part of the house to the other part of the house, it just seems to be as I'm going past the kitchen, and I don't think it has anything to do with the kitchen, but that's the moment I always notice it, I'll feel afraid for absolutely no reason.
Right.
And that's where my unspecified anxiety seems to pop up. And I just have to remind myself, you're not sad, you're not depressed, you're not hungry, are you thirsty? Maybe a little thirsty, right? Just that check in, and the big one is, you are tired. That is what you are experiencing. For me, it's you are tired. And when I'm tired, I can feel depressed. I can feel lots of things.
Right.
Yeah, tired is not a good look for me, as anyone who spends any time with me knows. So maybe, I don't know, but maybe upon awakening, is just your version of that, where that's the moment where your body says, now's a good time to be afraid. And I wouldn't be surprised if it tracks back to childhood. Like, you come into awakening in the morning, and it's like, oh, God, here we go again.
Right.
I've got to face X, Y, and Z that I got to face every day. It'd be like a kid going to school where they get bullied, and they know walking to school they're probably going to get a stomach ache.
Right.
All right, every day.
Right.
And even if the bullies stop, they may still get that stomach ache because of that pattern. The survival instinct kicks in and says, oh, this is the time. Somehow, for some reason, it's when I walk past my kitchen, but the scary, threatening kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. So after you did the notebook tool in the airport, what was after all that anxiety dissipated? What did you notice differently?
I think it really got me in the moment so much that I got very excited to pay attention to all the people around me. Mm-hmm. It was something I used to do as a child, was kind of make up stories about people. My mother and I would go to a train station and make up stories about people and where they were going and who they were with and all this stuff. So I got into a much more playful place, and it was great. It was all about just bringing myself back into that moment, you know, and saying what is true now, and then from there being able to say, okay, let's not look at what is true now. Let's make up stories about other people, but fun ones. So I could try to be more creative, because that's another piece that I'm trying to do too. So
you went into fascination.
Yeah. Fascination and creativity. It was perfect. It was, and actually writing it down was much more stunning to me. I mean, I get a lot out of the written word. So for me to be able to look at a piece of paper and see how quickly I transitioned, how much I was in that every minute having an obsessive thought, and then how quickly it transitioned out as I was writing it down.
And how much did you write down?
I wrote down about 6 things. And,
like what would you write?
No, I would write just 2 or 3 words. Worried about money. Worried about my tooth. Worried about my apartment, you know. It was really just a couple of things, just to keep track of where my mind was going. It was shocking, and it would just go in that circle over and over. And I wouldn't even give it's a frightening place to be when you're in that circle.
Yeah, especially if you feel like there's no way out of it.
Right.
If you didn't have the tool,
right,
and you could have justified. Most likely, I know I could have justified being freaked out because you're in a strange environment, you're traveling internationally, it's Christmas time, who knows what's going to happen, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Right.
And instead you got to do fascination once you nipped that in the bud. And it took, 10 minutes, you said?
I think all in all it took 20.
20.
Yeah.
Seriously amazing.
Truly.
Yeah, that's a good one. That was a really good example of it. All right, well, folks, if you want to join our conversation and talk to us about what's going on with you and your relationship to fear, you can give us a call or you can Skype us. It's very exciting. You want to call 909-202-8674, 909-202-8674, and you're welcome to give us a call right now if you'd like. I'm going to play a teeny clip here from Eloheim where they discuss the fear-based operating system and the consciousness-based operating system. I think this would be a really good contribution to the conversation. And it's the difference between the fear-based operating system and the consciousness-based operating system. The fear-based operating system says, all I care about is what fear tells me what to do. And the consciousness-based operating system says, I'm going to make room for insight because I want my life to be more juicy. I'm going to make room for insight because I'm sick of doing this all the time. And I'm going to open to insight because I am ready to live as a human in a way that's never been possible before, which is integrated with your soul's energy. Yeah, which is basically what Sue just talked about, the idea that you really went from looking at the world one way to looking at the world another way.
In 20 minutes.
In 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm just having a little moment of celebration here with you. I'm like, that's right. You guys can't see it, but I'm like giving her the thumbs up over here. It's a really beautiful thing when you can break those habitual patterns, the patterns where the mind says, it's always been this way, so it always should be this way. And Eloheim's example, I don't know if I have that clip here. I don't think I do, but that example that they have is so awesome, where they do the math problem, and they're like, if you had a complicated math problem, you wouldn't take the first answer that comes to mind as the solution.
Right.
Yet any emotion that floats through all of a sudden is given so much credence and so much authority and so much, that's how I should feel. And the one blessing really of every night when I walk through the house, getting to the kitchen and going, I'm depressed, is that I get to really practice with that experience of that's not real.
Yeah.
It's not real. So what is it? It has to be habit, right? It just comes from probably the survival instinct telling me who to be and how to be and what to do. And I'm like, don't boss me around. Don't tell me how to be. But instead of that resistance place, I really have sort of trained myself to go into that checklist. Hungry, thirsty, tired, Mm-hmm. And it's always tired because I'm on my way to bed.
Right.
Yeah. Last night, in our session that we had last night, which was tremendous, we talked about the idea of fascination, integration, emanation, and magnetism. And so I really like the fact that you were talking about the fact you changed to fascination.
Right.
Because that's really the first step. And there's this idea of fear or fascination. It's your choice. And this other place, I was reading some transcripts, and it was, are you going to go with frustration or fascination? They've been for a long time bringing it back to the idea that fascination is the place where we can really start using a different neural pathway, start experiencing ourselves in a different way. And then that integration piece is really example of your story in the airport of where you were fascinated by something other than what was happening. You were fascinated by the process of what was happening.
Right.
And then you sort of integrated yourself, got yourself back together.
And the part about remembering to ask what is true now, as you're writing each thing, and then you say, what is true now? It sounds so simple. And it is so simple. And the problem is that there's often a part of me that just wants to struggle against simple. It's got to be more difficult. It's just got to be more difficult. But that what is true now just centers me. And, Elohim will often say, even if it's just my shoes are brown, it just brings you, if you're really good about it, it just brings you right into the moment and allows you to take a breath at least. And then sit back again, and then another thought will come in, you do it again, and it just alleviates it so quickly.
Mm-hmm. And it is funny that simple should be wrong, and I think that's a symptom of relying on our big brains and thinking our big brains are the answer.
Yeah. And
that thinking is going to give us something, the ultimate thing it can give us. That thinking will be the ultimate thing. The gift of the ultimate will come from thoughts. And it's amazing because I've been with Elohim now for 10 years, and I've been on my spiritual journey for double that. And I have a passion for reading and learning new things, and I have been accused of having a big brain, and I suppose that's a reasonable assertion. And in that process, thinking got me a long ways.
Right.
Makes websites, it sets up Facebook, it generates blog talk radio programs. But then at some point, my brain is not helping me much right now, not while we're talking. This is not a thinking place that we're using right now. There's no strategies involved in this conversation. It's really coming from just a connection between the two of us and our listeners, co-creating a place where insight can be experienced, where it can be felt. And in that place, the mind has to be surrendered as the ultimate authority. And I think that's a big step. I always go back to Dr. David Hawkins' work, the levels of consciousness. I think those books are just so tremendous. Well, I think the early ones are tremendous. The later ones that calibrated at level 958, I barely could understand, so my big brain failed me there. But the I and the I of the I, I'm like, I don't. Exactly. But the earlier ones, especially, I've got it right here, it's called Transcending the Levels of Consciousness, the green one. I love that book because he goes through his belief about the different levels of consciousness, and he talks about what happens at each level. And he talks about how at level 400, the great scientists don't go beyond level 400 usually because they can't surrender the mind they can't surrender into that place of insight. They can't let go of the thing that's given them their identity. And the thing that's given them their identity has also given us all kinds of great things like the computers we're using right now. So it's not to say that we don't want to have people that do that. It's just that next place and that surrendering of the next thing. And it's a really interesting exploration for me to surrender my brain having the ultimate authority and to fall into something beyond that.
How would surrender tie into this fear thing, though?
Mm-hmm. I think it ties into the brain thing.
It's only tying into the brain.
Yeah, because, it's
not only. But.
Yeah. So if we said that thinking creates, that you could think your way out of fear or rationalize your fear or figure out your fear or deal with your fear from your brain. Mm-hmm. And if you start saying, my brain has never gotten the job done on that. It can't because the survival instinct is too loud. You have to have an in run. It's like a football thing. You know, you want to go that way, not through all those big, huge guys. All those big, huge linebacker guys, those are the thoughts. We're going to do that thing where we run really fast around the edge and do the in thingy with the, what's he called, running back. We're going to give him the ball, let him run around the side, let all the thoughts run into each other while the guy runs around and has that opportunity to say, there's something else here. You know, it's funny that we should use a football thing because the Super Bowl's coming up, but it's like the idea of, wow, we've never seen that play before. Or that's a new way to do that play. Right. And everybody goes, I was doing my habitual thing. And you were supposed to go this way with the ball, but the ball goes that way. It's a perfect example, really. And so you're figuring out how to take what you're feeling about your fears and go around the other end instead of going through the middle.
So we've talked about the notebook tool as one way to do that. What's another way to do that?
Catching yourself is always the first step, right? Catching yourself being habitual, catching yourself doing the thing you've always done, like you did at the airport or like I do on my way to bed, where there's that moment you go, oh, either fear is running me or I'm choosing. Yeah. And then the notebook tool is a great one, but what is true now is always what Eloheim goes back to. And I always go back to, am I hungry, thirsty, or tired? Am I hungry, thirsty, or tired? Because those three things can be interpreted by me as stress or depression. I don't get to decide I'm stressed or depressed unless I know I'm not tired and I'm not hungry or thirsty. Then I get to decide. And that's just a pattern I've had to be.
Is that your survival instinct has triggered that? Because it might think you're hungry? Or no?
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, and I think it probably goes back to childhood where you feel like, you know, you don't have as much control over when you get to sleep or when you get to eat or if people hear you or see you. A lot of people have that, being heard and seen and being fed and having some control over whether or not you have to be shipped off to this experience right now when maybe you really need to sleep or maybe need to do other things. So there becomes this defense mechanism that says, when I'm tired, I can't, or when I'm tired, I won't, or when I'm tired, I have to fear in some way.
Do you think we're always going to experience fear?
Oh, you know what? Isn't that great? Did you know that I have this?
I assumed you had something like this.
Did I already play it, though? You know, I have to learn how to check these off once I've already played them. If I've already played it, it's a good one. Did I do Is Fear Always Part of Being Human? I already did that one?
I guess I wasn't listening.
Well, it's good. You guys tell me on the chat if I've already played this one. I'm going to get better at knowing which ones I've played. Here we go.
Is fear always going to be a part of being human?
This is the way we see it going down. Because you have a body, because you have a survival instinct, fear will always be a part of you. But you'll catch the fact that you're afraid before it gets into this habitual place. You won't cover it up with other substances. You'll face it. And you'll recognize that even when you're afraid, you can choose to be fascinated by the experience rather than go into habit about the experience. Okay, even if we did already play that one, it's so good it was worth a second try. But here, let's play this one because this one definitely we haven't played, and I liked this one, so here it comes. Some fears need to not get as much time as they get. All right, so that's not ignoring. That's saying, I see you and I am not going to put up with living here. That's not ignoring. That's saying, I want a transformed relationship. A transformed relationship. That's what we've been talking about, right? If you want to join the conversation, please give us a call. The number is 909-202-8674, 909-202-8674. Give us a call right now to add your thoughts about fear and what ways that you're dealing with your temptations into fear and your experiences of fear. Because, you know, we all have them. And I like that I added in that word temptation because, boy, howdy, the I'm tempted to is so good with fear. Right. I'm tempted to be afraid right now. And how powerfully that takes us out of habitual ways of saying a fear popping up. You know, the idea that I'm constantly looking at fear and constantly feeling it is all using a certain part of your brain. And then when you can just say, I'm tempted to be afraid right now. Right. And then go into the notebook tool or then go into what is true now. They work together so nicely in that way. They team up. I'm tempted to. Oh, I'm only tempted to.
And then being able to say, I choose to come at it from another place.
A different direction. Different direction. Because, boy, the idea that we don't have an option. I think that's the one that sticks in my craw the most. I don't like to be told what to do. My stubbornness shows up there and says, don't tell me I can only be afraid here. But a lot of times, especially before I started working with Elohim, there was no clear other answer. There was no clear other answer. You're just going to be afraid.
Right.
I remember one time I was in the Home Depot, and one of those little teeny forklifts came around the corner. You know, and they're beep, 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 one of those. You know, there's probably 20 of them in every Home Depot you've ever been in. And they're just always doing their thing because they got to stock the shelves and get stuff for people. Came around the corner, scared the living you-know-what out of me. And not in a startled way, not in a, oh, God, that was loud, or one of those ways. In a, the dragon has come through the gate. The saber-toothed tiger is in my hut. I ran screaming out of Home Depot.
Wow.
All the way to my car. From a forklift. Yeah, so, you know, there's progress can be made, folks. Progress can be made. It was just so terrifying in such a primal way, and I had no way of working with that. Right. I had no answer other than to just respond to it in that way. You know, when I was a kid, we were at Disneyland, and the lines were really long for people to buy their tickets to get in. So they sent all the characters out in costumes to entertain people while we waited in line. And I don't remember what the guy's name is, but he's super tall, and he's part of, like, the Bear Jamboree band. So he's, like, 17,486 feet tall, as you know, if you're 8. And I was facing the cars. So I had my back to Disneyland. I was facing the cars. And thinking he was clever, he walked up behind me, and he bent his head down. So I look up, right? I look up, and there's this ginormous brown bear thing. I started screaming and running. Apparently, that's what I do. I scream and run. I screamed and run. I screamed and ran as fast as my little feet would carry me, and my parents were running after. We lost our place in line. I was out with the cars. I was fast when I was little, man. I didn't hit puberty till I was like 17. I was a little skinny thing, and I was just running at the fast, and screaming. It was ugly. That was me. So, yeah, I've had it. Hey, we have a caller. Let's just see what our caller has to say. Hello, you are live on Conscious Connections Radio.
Well, hello. This is Margie from Ukiah. And
long-time listener, first-time caller. I've always wanted to say that.
Yes, since this is your first show, this is a first-time caller.
Hello. How are you?
I wanted to make a comment about the fear conversation that I watched. and was so grateful for the illustration that Elohim gave of the, it wasn't quite labeled, I don't think, as the cascading fears, but, hitting the fear and then not letting the body drop back to a normal state, just holding that fear level. And I guess I hold that in my body, and causes a lot of tension and stress in my body. So I've been working on that quite a long time, but it wasn't until I actually spoke with you, Veronica, when you just asked me what it was that came up between me and my goals. And when I said it's, for me, details and the step of just drawing it back to doing one thing at a time, it changed for me from being a theory to being present in my body. And I really am grateful for that, because I'm sure for each of us there would be a different invisible, invisible place where we're living out the fear and not even realizing it.
Right.
So that has really helped me, just dropping into trying to do one thing at a time instead of living in all of the details that are boggling to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of just grateful.
Yeah. When we were talking, I just remembered you saying that you had a project that you wanted to do for a whole year and felt really intimidated by, and opening up to the idea that, what if you just took the first step? I was trying to get to what was scaring you about the whole project.
Exactly.
But what we found was it wasn't so much that there was something scaring you about the whole project as much as you just couldn't identify what the first step was. Right? Nope, we lost her. Anyway, we'll just assume that I'm right. How's that? But it was really interesting because she was telling me that for a year she had wanted to get together and create some classes and to generate opportunities to do the work she does, which is sound healing. And I said, well, what freaks you out about doing it? And she gave me a list, and the list included things like, well, then I would have to have a flyer. And I said, no, what freaks you out about doing it? And then she would, there was this idea that 25 steps down the road, she was upset about that step,
right,
but had never done the first step, which was to call the lady and say, you said I could use your space. Can I use your space? What can we get on the calendar? Right. And she wasn't actually afraid of that step. She was afraid of the 25th step. And that 25th step, which she may never even actually need.
Right, exactly.
That's the thing,
That's
man.
what I was just thinking, yeah.
That's the thing. I remember back in the day I had an eBay business. I used to buy stuff and sell stuff on eBay. I buy stuff at garage sales and sell it on eBay and in an antique store that we had. And when I started that business, my former husband said to me, well, everybody's going to bounce checks on you. And that was his reason why I shouldn't have that business. Everybody's going to bounce checks on you. And it's like, okay. So in the course of, 7, 8 years, 2 people bounced checks and both were made good. So it's like if I had just believed that fear, if that was my fear and I had believed it, then I would have been never having that business, which I, actually had fun with and paid my bills with for a while. So I think we have to be really cautious that the fear doesn't tell you who you are. Don't let fears tell you who you are. You decide who you are. Let fears inform you as to where your challenges are. Sure, why not? But they don't get to decide who you are.
Is there, I know you were talking about the Circle of Possibilities tool and seeing all the static in between, but sometimes I'm wondering how you can work on the fears in that way too. Like in one of the Wednesday night meetings, there were people who served as the static, and it's almost like trying to get people in your life or notebook cards or something to serve as like physical illustrations for you of the fears that you have about a particular thing, and then being able to flip it somehow, like they did in that meeting. I don't know if that would work in some way.
I think that's a great idea, because I know for me, if I have a lot of things I've been wanting to do, like the to-do list thing, if I just think about them, I feel obsessed. and overwhelmed. If I write them down, the simple act of writing them down, then I don't have to keep thinking about it, and then I can look at the list and evaluate the priority of those things. So I could see where that would be a really powerful tool. And for those folks who are new and don't know what the heck we're talking about, the idea here is that you're in the center of a circle, and the outside of the circle is all possibilities. And between you and experiencing those possibilities is what Elohim likes to call static or baggage, which is the things that are generated that create blocks and barriers, like we talked about a minute ago. The idea that I don't know how to make a flyer, so I can't have a class, right? I don't know how to make a flyer. If you stick on that one, you're never going to even book the room. So Sue's idea of writing down your statics on individual note cards, and you could pin them on the wall or get one of those cork boards and make a circle and pin them up there and just stare at them. And for me, that would be really helpful. I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of visual, visceral, and then, moving them, flipping them over, writing what you wish they were on the other side, and then turning them over and seeing, oh, that feels like a lie, or I couldn't do that, or that's impossible.
Right.
And then you can step by step, like let's use Margie's thing about her flyer. If you use the step-by-step tool, you can say, okay, I booked the room. Now I do need a flyer. Crap, that's the thing I'm scared of. And you could take your card that says, I don't know how to make a flyer, turn it over and say, who could I ask? Who could I call? What do I want on the flyer? Break it down into smaller steps. Because Elohim has said, if you're stressed, you're trying to do too big of a step. Because at a minimum, just even if you don't know how to do a flyer on the computer, let's as an example use, you can decide what you would like to have on a flyer.
Right.
And you have to be really careful, because let's say you want a living, breathing dragon on your flyer. Okay, maybe there isn't such a thing, but that doesn't mean you can't want it. So you write it down. And then you can hash it out and figure out what could go on your flyer. Because I think a lot of people will be like, well, I would really love for it to have a really pretty piece of art, but I don't know anybody who would do an art, and I don't know where to find it, so I can't do a flyer.
Right. Yeah.
So just write down pretty art, then my name, my phone number, my email address, the location, and the date. Whew. And then once you have it, for me at least, it's like now there's the pot of things I want to work with. And now that I have the pot of things that I want to work with, you can allow insight in. Oh, so-and-so has a friend who did her flyer. Maybe she could help me. Or the beauty in the
sometimes being able to you have that out there. You have that image about the flyer. And then you just sit on it for a while. Like I had this example of needing to find a post office key for my tenant. And I knew that I moved it here somewhere, but I had no idea where it was, and it would cost $50 to get a new one. And I just knew it. I just sat on it. I didn't stress about it. And then one day I was sitting, because I had some boxes, and I thought maybe they were in some of these boxes, but I wouldn't even know where to look. And all of a sudden one day I just heard, go to this box, and I went to the box. I put my hand down to the bottom of the box. There was a plastic bag. I heard it jingle. I pulled it up. I just dumped this. I was so excited. I just didn't even look. I just dumped the plastic bag on the ground, and there was the post office key. But it was like I didn't have to stress over it. It was just I put it kind of out there, like you're talking about with a poster or a flyer. It's like once you know that that's something you want or need, you just kind of sit on it, and it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know why it happens. It's the non-provable, non-reproducible miracle, I'm telling you, that I found the post office key.
Mm-hmm.
There's a million reasons why it shouldn't have worked.
Yeah. And sometimes people will talk about that as like the vision board effect or the law of attraction effect. And I think those things work, but what people get trapped in is what you brought up. Provable, reproducible. And if it's not provable and it's not reproducible, then I can't count on it because I can't make it happen. I don't know how to make it happen, so I can't count on it. And if I can't count on it, I can't believe in it. If I can't believe in it, there's a real strong pull in us to say, don't go there. It's too risky. Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's great. So that's a great story. You hadn't told me that one. I like that story. That's a good one.
It just happened.
You know what? I think we should have a song. Let's have a little song, because you know what? I have this band in my life that I absolutely adore, and I've done lots of fun things with them, and I just really feel like playing one of their songs for you guys, and we're going to come back after this. Feel free to call in, and you'll be ready to go after the song. The call-in number is 909-202-8674. this one. Ooh, which we play? There's so many good ones. Let's try this one. This is Let It In by 10 Foot Tone. And I'll put their link in the chat room. And again, be on our list to call, 909-202-8674. Here we go.
Walk outside, get in your car. You could roll up the window. With the price of gas, you won't get too far. What makes you feel? What makes you feel? What makes you feel safe? You could stack a brick upon a brick to build a wall. To keep them out and keep them in. They can still drop a bomb. You may never know why. What makes you feel? What makes you feel? What makes you feel free? What makes you What makes you feel good? Others drive by, they just don't have the time. You can be a lover, help out. What makes you? What makes you feel? What makes you? What's the one for all? What makes you feel? What's the one for all? What makes you? What makes you? What's the one for all? What makes you? What makes you? What makes you? What's the one for all? What makes you? What makes you? What's the one for all? What makes you? What makes you feel? What makes you feel?
Yep, that's John Williams, 10 Foot Tone. I love them. I have lots of songs to play of theirs as we go on in our show in the next weeks and months to come. A lot of times John will credit Eloheim for some of the inspirations of his songs, which is always very cool. But yeah, John and 10 Foot Tone of 10foottone.com. They're also on iTunes, I believe. And that song was called Let It In. Let It In. So we had a caller that dropped while we were on the song. So if you want to call, we have room for you on the show. We'd love to hear your thoughts about fear. 909-202-8674, or you can Skype. You push the Skype button, wherever the Skype button is there for you guys. Let's just see what Eloheim has to add to this conversation. You know, this is an interesting thought. Someone asked, what is fear? You know, because it's one of those things we deal with all the time. It's like, what is it? Like, what the hell is fear anyway? So let's hear what fear is in Eloheim's estimation.
So primarily we see fear as the biological response to stimulus, and that's why everybody's fears are different, because everybody has different responses to stimulus. Is it the same as worry? This is where your language doesn't necessarily serve you, because worry we see as fear replicated, meaning you have a fear that's a biological response to a stimulus. And that can be very natural. A loud sound, something like that, can cause you to be in fear. Startled, maybe, is another way of saying it. And as you experience your fear, as you experience yourself in that way, and it comes, peaks, and abates, that's sort of a normal fear pattern. When you have a fear, and it comes and it peaks, and then it levels off, and you stick with it for a long time, that's what we call either hamster wheel thinking. You can call it worry. And that's kind of why when you're in the fear-based operating system, it's so difficult, is because you don't recognize that you're staying with a fear much longer than the biological stimulus requires.
Oh, staying with the fear much longer than the biological stimulus requires. I've done that. I've done that so many times. Dear God. Yes. Yeah. And that's where where that shows up the most in me is when I feel that psychic overwhelm, the psychic overwhelm. And it can feel actually threatening, but then to get out of the space where I feel that psychic overwhelm and still feel as though there's a need to stay in that overwhelmed place as an opportunity to protect myself or defend myself or keep myself safe when there's just absolutely no reason for it. There's a need to process that overwhelm and a need to discharge it and a need to come back to my center. But I almost feel like it's a sword or a shield that I've got to keep up. The overwhelm needs to be the protecting force rather than my ability to center and collect myself being the protecting force.
Right.
So you have that spaz out kind of thing that doesn't go away.
Right.
Right. Ooh. I don't even like talking about it.
What do we do about fear that comes up?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should have the caller.
Let's have a caller since we have a caller.
Hi.
Hello, caller from area code 510. How are you today?
Hey, I'm really good. How are you?
Really great. What's your name?
This is Aiden from Richmond.
Hi, Aiden, and what's going on with you? What did you want to share today?
Well, I live in Richmond, in a pretty nice part of Richmond, but there really is a violence issue down in other parts of Richmond, right? I'm interested in giving some thoughts for people who are genuinely fearful from violence down there. What are some tools that I can utilize?
Yeah, like tools that you could use in your life or things that you could go and find someone you think is afraid and tell them?
I generally don't feel a lot of fear. I have a lot of kind of good vibes that I emanate when I'm anywhere. I've lived in Oakland and Richmond for years, but for other people, like I work with children, for instance, who have experience in things. What do you think that I could help them do?
Yeah, that's a great question because there are people who are legitimately got a knife at their neck or a gun to their head or the equivalent of that, violence in their neighborhoods. And that's actually a great question for Eloheim. It would be a really good follow-up question to hear their thoughts on it. My belief is that what you said earlier is the best thing you can do is that you bring yourself to a point where you are not emanating fear and you're recognizing that even if someone's legitimately having challenges in their life, they don't have to constantly be in fear. So when you're with them, when they're in a, quote, safe place, to help them not continue to be in the fear response that maybe they have justification for being in at times. So let's say at home they can really feel a justified fear, but maybe they're with you in some kind of a classroom or something as an example, and they don't actually need to be in fear, helping them see that they can let down that fear. And what is true now is always a great tool for that. And by just acknowledging, you seem nervous. Is there something going on for you?
Yeah,
and helping them see, helping them see that they're in a different situation. Because I think sometimes what happens for us is that we take our fears from one situation to another, even when they are situational fears. And to use an extreme example, it would be like if someone pulled a knife on you, at the shopping mall, and then you go home and you still feel as afraid as you did when someone had a knife on you. And that's not applicable, although difficult to change. It helps if you do. Right? Because if you don't, then you're just in it and you can't let go. Ooh, yeah. Does that feel like it answers your question?
It does, and a lot of tools just started coming up for me that I remember that I can answer with them too. What's true now? What is in your lap? And a whole bunch of other things about. It's kind of like becoming to a humorous place, like almost how humor heals any vibe in a room, just lightening it up a little bit. So
yeah,
that's really true.
That's true. It can help, and sometimes we can laugh at horrific things in a way that's not laughing to make light of it, but laughing to just discharge some of that held tension.
Yeah.
And
diffuse the bomb. Yeah.
Yeah. It just it's like crying. You let the tears let some of that the intensity of it out, so you can have a more balanced place to attend to it from. And sometimes Sue and I have done this too, where she'll tell me about something that's going on for her, and I'll say, I'm not laughing at you, but you can recognize that on some level this is kind of hilarious, right? And she'll be like, yeah, I get it. And we've done it both directions, where it's like, yeah, I get your huge problem, and it's kind of funny to me. And it's funny because I think to make light of it, it's funny because, geez, look at the things we can create. Now, I don't know that you can do that with a young child who's in that kind of a situation, but if we take the conversation to how adults can interact with each other, I think there is sometimes some real healing to be had in finding something about it that can be a little humorous, to just change the energy, change the part of the brain you're using.
Right on. That's all really ringing very true and applicable. Thank you. I'm going to let another caller step on now. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thanks for calling. Okay, so we had another caller, but they dropped off. You guys can stack up on the calling. You don't have to wait for somebody to hang up to call in again. We're learning how to work all this, but that's definitely how it works. I know that part. 909-202-8674. We'd sure love to hear from you before we go. And I love in the chat room it says the hamster wheel of terror. I think that's a good that is definitely a real thing, and on that note, I'm going to play this clip from Eloheim where they talk about, is there a real power in fear? I think this one's really applicable right now. Here we go.
Is there a real power in fear?
There is a real power in fear, and the real power in fear is that it gets you to act, right? Fear drives your behavior all the time. So it's an extremely powerful force, which is why we say instead of being fear-based, if you're consciousness-based and you're allowing consciousness to take that spot that fear is taking where it's pushing you, you can really empower yourself, And, again, it's all the things we've talked about. So this is a great way to talk about it. It gives you that opportunity, gives you that opportunity to say, I could be fearful here, and I'm going to be conscious instead. That's why we called our very first book The Choice for Consciousness, because you have to make a choice into, and then you choose and choose again to continue on the path of consciousness rather than default to familiar suffering and habitual response and hamster wheel thinking and the whole repetition of that bar that we've talked about. You choose out of that and you choose into a conscious experience with your fears. Can't get away from fear, but you can have a completely different relationship to it, which eventually might feel like having gotten away from fear. We're not saying that you're going to be as fearful as you are now forever. You will not be. But will you ever not have fear? Probably not. But you will have much smaller reactions to your fear, and it will fuel that consciousness journey rather than be the distraction from it.
Isn't that great if we're both there? Hi, caller. How are you today?
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. What's your name?
Oh, hi. It's Mary in Los Angeles.
Well, hello, Mary in Los Angeles. How are you today?
Surprise.
Are you eating chocolate, Mary?
No, but I'm still coughing. I'm afraid I'll always have bronchitis. That's part of it. No. Okay, so my question is, I am seeing so much fear from a large portion of the country about President Obama. And I'm wondering your perspective on, some of the people are afraid, seem to be very, very afraid, the white old man vanguard, that we have a young, smart, half-black man at the helm. But, I'd like to speak to some of that as the inauguration comes up. I'm so afraid for him to walk down the street with all this hatred coming at him, and it's the only thing I can find that I am repetitively afraid about in the last couple of weeks and haven't shaken.
Yeah. If you could do us a small favor and just turn down your speakers so we can hear you talking through your speakers. That's one of those weird radio things. In the old days when I would listen to radio, I would hear them say, you have to turn down your speakers, and I never knew why. It's because we can hear you talking through your speakers, through the phone, talking to us, and it's just one of those little distractions. But anyway,
we love your voice, Mary.
Yes, we love your voice, but we're just hearing you twice. Come on.
I love Sue's co-host voice. It's lovely.
I'm just taking credit right now. Before we get to your question, which we will get to it, I'm taking full credit. For 2 years, I've been telling Sue she's going to be the best radio host radio's ever known, and she's never believed me, but she has a badass radio voice, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah. Just wait till she gets in the interview mode. You haven't been in the interview mode yet. She's like, just trust me on this. I know these things. I have total confidence. Anyway, back to your question.
Very good taste, Veronica, all the way around.
I tell you. So this is the deal with that one, in my opinion, all right, is you got to always look at what that fear is telling you about you, right? So you're afraid for Obama. You're afraid for his safety. You're afraid because he's smart and he's capable and he's unusual in the sense of how presidents typically look, that he will be in danger. And I would say to you, Mary, you're capable and smart and unusual, and where don't you feel safe? Because that feels louder to me than Obama with a full fleet of Secret Servicemen to look after him, and more awareness about what dangers he really faces than we will ever have awareness of. That feels like a louder, real fear to be attended to than worrying about the president. And that place in you where being an authority, being an unusual authority has been dangerous, and it may take you going into alternate expressions, which is another way to say past lives, to realize that, but it feels very strongly to me that you're looking at a place where you don't feel like being unusual and standing out in the crowd is safe.
I super appreciate that feedback because it hadn't even occurred to me, but of course it hits me in the stomach when you say that. And I'd share with listeners that in a private session with Eloheim, they shared with me a past life where I was hunted and had been, like a right-hand kind of person to the king or whatever. And politics changed, and I was extremely hurt because now I was no longer welcome. And not only welcome, I was perceived, instead of being like Lancelot, I was now this hideous threat. And everywhere I went, I was hunted. And
so let's just use that example. It's perfect because when Obama came in the first term, it was, the answer, right, for a lot of people. And then it turned out to be, hard job. Maybe the answer takes longer, or maybe the answer is just the start, not just the savior or the Lancelot energy, right? The riding up on the white horse to save the day kind of thing. And then you come along to say, then if you resonate with that energy, and then that energy was persecuted, and here we are in the second term, persecution, everyone's screaming and yelling about everything you could possibly think to scream and yell about, makes complete sense to me.
Yep.
Right? And so looking at yourself and saying, where am I feeling that feeling of if I stick my head out, it gets cut off?
Breathing.
Usually a good thing to do.
Putting myself out there. And, I have shared with you before that I was a therapist for many years, and a really good one, a very alternative one. And I don't really want to do that anymore, partly because I want to work with people who want to change, and that's hard to ferret out.
So you want to make a difference? You want to make a change? You want to make a change in a different way? But you know what I'm saying? The energy is so connected to what the president's trying to do. That's what I'm trying to say.
It is. It's true. And I know that the best thing I can do is emanate, and yet I don't put myself anywhere where anyone's really seeing that or feeling that. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of reclusive.
So then it goes step by step.
Here's the trigger. It feels like, I'm going to put it out there and they're going to bite my hand anyway. Like the ungrateful bastards.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
And that's the casting of the characters of the old white men that you said in your question, right? You've got the ungrateful bastards cast. You've got Lancelot in there. You've got projection of about authority figures. You've got the whole script. You're making a whole show.
I'm just waiting to be drawn and quartered. That's all. Paint my face blue and let's go again. I have to say though, I'm really surprised, and there's not a time that I don't connect with you or Elohim or anybody in this group that it doesn't bring up a deeper layer or a revelation or more like an illumination, like the light shining on that part of it, because it's not the big, heavy baggage suitcase full of crap that it was. It's so much lighter. But when you find it, like right now, I feel it in my chest, I feel it in my body, and I know the survival instinct is going, whoa, and I'm so appreciative because each time it lights up for me, then I can be more conscious and deal with it. So thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing your story and giving us a great example to work with. We will talk to you very soon. We're going to jump to a different caller.
And you're invited to the inauguration party. How's that?
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a sweet day.
Best wishes with the show. It's wonderful.
Oh, thanks for participating. We sure appreciate it. Bye.
Well, I love you guys.
Oops. She loves us.
We love you too.
We didn't mean to cut off her I love yous. Oh, well. I'm getting used to the buttons here, folks. All right. We have another caller. Hello, caller from area code 479. How are you today? Hello? Oh, there they are. Hello. Hello?
Hey, Veronica. I called by accident. Sorry.
Who is this?
This is Denise from Arkansas. I'm on a walk, and my phone called you.
Well, now you're on the phone with us. You can't let go.
I know. I guess I'm getting over my fear of closeness.
Apparently you are. Your phone is like, we're not going to worry about you being afraid. We're going to call in and put you on the spot. That is so funny. You butt dialed. We're being told.
My community, and how I was out here in my community with whoever I was with, and my phone dialed you.
Isn't that fabulous? Well, it's great to hear your voice, and we're picking up a lot of wind noise from you, so we're going to let you off the line.
Sorry.
But it's so fun that your butt dialed us, and we're so appreciative of your ass. So there you go.
Okay, love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to hang up on that one and call this. Oh, okay. Hello, Tiffany. How are you today?
Hello, Veronica. I'm awesome. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, although you're pretty crackly, but maybe it'll be okay. We might. Oh, you're pretty crackly. You're going to have to give us another try. We got to go. You're too noisy. Sorry.
Okay.
Bye.
Alrighty. Bye.
Hi, caller from 678 area code. How are you today?
Hi.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Who's this?
Hi, my name is Cyril.
Hello.
Hi.
You're live. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted messages from my spirit guides and angels.
So you're trying to get messages from your spirit guides and angels?
Yes.
Yes. So we're not doing any channeling right now, but what I can say to you that Elohim has always taught us is that when you're trying to connect to your spirit guides, The best thing to do is not to have preconceived notions about how that's going to happen. And give yourself plenty of opportunities where you have to make simple decisions that you ask for insight about. So when you are getting dressed in the morning, you pick out 2 shirts and you ask for insight, and then you recognize the changes you make. I was talking to a guy the other day who would feel pressure in his ear if it was a yes. I've had people who feel taps on their shoulders. I've had people who smell things, who hear things, who sense things. So don't have preconceived notions of what your connection to your non-physical helpers will be like, and give yourself as many opportunities throughout the day as you can to include their insight in your decision making. And that seems to be the way people get connected.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much for calling the show. We really appreciate you being part of it.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
Oh, you're so welcome. Bye-bye. Hello, caller from the 919 area code. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. This is Carrie.
I thought that was you. How are you, sweetie pie?
I'm good. I wanted to talk about kind of like last night I had a situation with fear that I thought would really be interesting to run by you guys and see what you kind of thought of it. I was in a situation where I heard kind of a comment about what somebody else thought of me, and immediately I felt my body have this reaction, and I knew, oh, okay, I'm valuing this, and I'm letting it kind of determine my value of myself based on this other person. And immediately I kind of stepped away from the conversation and went and wanted to deal with it myself, because my body was having such a reaction to hearing what somebody else thought of me. Yeah. And I sat there and I realized 2 things about fear. One is, like, it's amazing to me how through the conscious journey that I've been going on, how much I become more aware of fear, like in places I wouldn't have thought of before, learning everything I've learned from Elohim. And 2, like, how much a gift it is, because once I, like, sat there and thought about why it bothered me so much and really went through everything and realized how much I was letting it affect how I valued myself, it was more of a gift, saying, okay, this is an area that I can start working on so that I can kind of get out of a prison, almost like I was imprisoning myself, letting other people's opinions affect me so deeply in how I feel about myself. So it was really like a gift, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Wow, good job. Very good job with that, because, that's something that in the past would have spun you out, could have spun you out for a really long time, and you grabbed a hold of it, pulled it close to you like the warrior talks about. It feels like real warrior energy that you had, where you said, yeah, okay, this scares me, but I'm going to bring it close and look at it in the whites of its eyes, pull it right here next to me where I can keep a good track of it and see how it moves in me, and not go into victimhood, but like Elohim talked about last night, stay in that level 5 place. This trigger is mine. This is my opportunity to know myself and to hold into that truth so deeply, to just hold into that truth. So even in the way you presented your situation, your question, it's such a beautiful arc, because it goes from almost like I was a victim of this person's comment to, my God, this was such a gift for me. It was really powerful. I enjoyed just listening to it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a really interesting, good journey. I really feel like it was a journey, and it was pretty awesome. And I really think Elohim's tools, I know Elohim's tools helped me in that, and the whole fear, just everything about fear is so interesting and fascinating now. Where it is, where it shows up in me, how it makes my body react, and it's just really amazing, out of all the things the body does, how it can react to fear in that way when it's not a fearful situation. It's so fascinating. So I love hearing about everything about fear, and it just really helps me know more about myself, and I can really find those places in me that want to grow more, And
what's interesting is if we talk about the fact that fear is present always, like Elohim has said, we're in the fear-based operating system, right? So fear is always present. Because we have a survival instinct and we're trying to stay alive, we have to be fearful in order to be aware of threats. And it's how we relate to that really determines kind of how we navigate our journey. And what you're saying, or what I'm hearing you say is, I want to know about fear. I'm curious about fear. I'm fascinated about fear because it's all over the place. I get to learn about myself all over the place if I follow the journey of fear and where it shows up in me. So I feel like what you're saying is I'm learning about me all the time by studying where I'm fearful. It's beautiful.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll let you go so you can have somebody else in, but it's great chatting with you guys. I love the radio show. Love it.
Thank you so much for calling. Sure appreciate you doing so. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
That was awesome. Yeah. She's awesome. And if anybody doesn't know, Carrie is the most epic graphic designer, and all of my graphics she does. You name it. You see something pretty on my website or on my Facebook, or Carrie did it. And her partner Ryan did the website build, so we are very, very fortunate to have them in our lives. Okay, we've got more callers. How fun is that? Okay. Let's see if I did that. Click. There you go. Hello, caller from 479. How are you? Hello? Did her butt call us again? They hung up. I bet it was her butt. Was it 479 before they called us from her butt? I don't know. It was an immediate hang up. All right, let's see if Tiffany's Skype has fixed. Hang on just a second. Let's see. Tiffany, The answer to that is no. Tiffany, your Skype is out of control, sweetie. Can you see if you can fix that? Because, boy, howdy, that was loud. You know what? I think we're going to take a teeny break and hear another song because that just got me so excited. Now, this is really hard because do we want a mellow song or do we want a not-so-mellow song? What's your vote, Sue?
Mellow.
You want a mellow one? Okay. I love this song. We're going to come back after the song. We can take more callers. So get yourself in the queue at 909-202-8674. We're going to have a little song, and we will come back to more calls after this. Thank you for tuning in to Conscious Connections here on Blog Talk Radio.
Slow down. You move too fast. Every moment takes your breath. Every moment takes your breath. And if you're mad at the world, take it out on me. 'Cause I believe what you could be is out of this world, out of this world. 'Cause the world needs your light. 'Cause the world needs your light, 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 light. 'Cause the world needs your light. 'Cause the world needs your light. I'm so glad I found you. I want to put my arms around you. I want to put my arms around you. But every moment takes your breath. The closer I get to you. Every moment takes your breath. Every moment takes your breath. And if you're mad at the world, just take it all out on me. 'Cause I believe what you could be is out of this world, out of this world. man of the world. Just take it out on me. 'Cause I believe what you could be is out of this world, out of this world. 'Cause the world needs your light. 'Cause the world needs your light, 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 light. 'Cause the world needs your light. 'Cause the world needs your light, light, light.
Yeah, that's 10-Foot Tone. I love those boys. I just love those boys. They are here in Sonoma, California. They're also, of course, online. And they are some good guys. And John, the lead singer there, writes most of the songs, and the boys write the music. And, ooh, we are lucky to know them. And we have some callers. Let's see. Rick, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
We're doing great. We're having such a good time now, folks. Rick is the one who taught us all about how to work the behind-the-scenes stuff of Blog Talk, and we are super grateful because this would be a mess without your tutelage. So thank you very much.
Oh, I'm glad I could help.
We needed it.
Oh, I still need it sometimes in there, but it's good. I did have a question. I love the way that Eloheim was talking about not just we had all these tools that you can use them yourself, but the sort of reviewing them and saying you can also have them for others. And I've got a good friend, and just time after time will call me on the phone and start running this. It's sort of a cascading concurrent fear thing of, they didn't call me back today, and I thought they were going to call me back today. And so that probably means that I'm not going to get the job. And if I don't get the job, then I'm not going to get a paycheck. And then if I don't get a paycheck, I'm not going to be able to pay the rent. And then I'm going to get evicted.
You did that really good.
Well, it was a great example last night. I think it was the Warrior. It was the Warrior or Fred one that said, look, don't do that.
Yeah, that was funny. Just don't do that.
Just don't do that. They do that often. They'll give an example, and they just get this look on their face like, don't do that.
It's funny because they sort of, inside me, what I feel is this sense of like, how can they possibly think this is a good idea? Just don't do that, And so then they'll say it, and I'll just be like, that's not exactly 100% helpful.
Yeah, because we understand. Because I've done this too in my life, the running the fear out to the insane, how ridiculous does it have to get point.
Right. Yeah.
And it's really like almost it builds into this thing that's huge when what happened was inconsequential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you do with your friend when he does that? How do you handle it?
Lately, I've just been saying, look, you're on the track, you're on the train. Interrupt the train, because I'm sort of at a loss for saying what to do next, but I know you got to stop the train and see if you can kick yourself off into a new spot in your brain. It's not even important that you know what to do. Just if you catch yourself on the train, interrupt the train, and if you're back 5 minutes from now, interrupt it again.
Yeah. One of the ways that happened big time for me when I was much younger, we used to work for a big corporation, and at lunchtime we just had to get out of cubicle land because it was killing us, and so we would go for little walks up and down the street. And I was dating a guy that it was not going well, and my girlfriend finally looked at me and she said, do you realize you've told me the same story every day for a month? And I didn't even know it. I, honest to God, did not know it. And when she said that, it shocked my system so deeply that I went, okay, and I broke up with the guy like the next day. Because I figured if it hadn't changed in a month, it wasn't going to change. But I didn't even know I was telling the same story, which just goes back to Sue's story at the beginning of the show where we talked about the notebook tool and how writing it down and saying, you said the same thing. And if he's doing the cascading fears, you can say, hang on. Let's not tie all these things together. You might talk to him or show him the equal signs PowerPoint that we have on YouTube, where to show that he's connecting things. He might not realize connecting things.
Yeah, because and running it out, and I suppose it's better. I've heard this same friend run things out like for 10 years to me about relationships and things, and it seems better. But that was all that just kept coming out of my mouth when I was this most recent incarnation of the phone call. And I almost interpret the phone call as like, hey, I'm on the train. Could you help me interrupt? And that was just like shouting in my head. And of course, it was your voice of Elohim going, just interrupt. Just don't do that. And because I couldn't think of what else to say, I was just like, it's like when you've been laying on the couch for 6 months. The only guidance you get is get up.
What if you grabbed one thing he was saying and didn't let him change subjects? If you kept saying, well, let's come back to this and see what we can do about this. Let's come back to this and see what we can do about this. Wait, have we actually resolved this first one? Have we done a step-by-step on this first one? Have we figured out a changed perspective on the first one before we jump to the next? That's the concurrent fears tool, where people spend a bunch of time thinking, I'm hearing myself, Rick, you got to turn your speakers down. When you spend a bunch of time thinking about money until your brain has let you think about it as much as thinking has helped you, and then you switch to spending a bunch of time thinking about your love life until your brain hasn't given you anything else new on that, et cetera, rather than staying with money for more than, the 5 minutes that you give it every single time you think about it and never get past that.
Right. Oh, that's great.
So that one might be supportive if the person's ready to hear that. But you can keep bringing them back. Elohim has the tool, answer the question you wish they had asked. So you could use that tool where you just keep answering the question about the first subject, even if he tries to go to the next subject, and see if he matches energy with you rather than wanting you to match energy with him. And that's worked for me, and it's funny. It's funny when it happens. That's one of the funny tools. You just keep
that would be very cool.
Yeah, you just keep answering the question you wish he had asked or the subject he wished he had brought up. And then if he busts you on it, right, if he says, why the hell do you keep doing that? You'd be like, 'cause I know we're going to talk about this again the next time you call. We may as well just finish talking about it now. Oh, Rick, it's a joy to hear your voice. I sure appreciate you calling in.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And
thank you.
Great show. I'm looking forward to lots more. So thanks a bunch, and
tell us the name
I'll get out of the way.
Tell us the name of your before you go. We want to advertise your show too.
My show is Everyday Connection, and we're right here on Blog Talk Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and we have a fiction author tonight, so that should be a fun change of pace for us.
Beautiful.
But we'll still get the same. We'll still get the same story. We always get the same story.
Be sure to put the link to your show in the chat before you hang up. Okay?
Oh, I will. Big love.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We've got a caller who's been so patient. Hello, caller from area code 406. How are you?
Hi, good morning. This is Nancy.
Hello, Nancy. How are you today?
Oh, I'm having so much fun listening to this. Boy, there's a lot of energy on this call. Wow. And after last night, all I could say last night was, wowza. I mean, I had to sleep in. It was so powerful. Something was happening on the integration level last night because I slept in till 10 o'clock, and that is not my norm.
Wow.
Yeah. So my question is about am I too loud, by the way?
You're perfect.
Okay, good. My question is, as I've been watching some old stuck energy around fears literally moving out. So my question is about when energy is moving out and we get kind of flooded, or I get flooded in the moment, with the old emotions that were part of that energy. And so it's like, how do we really stay present with the tools, especially related to last night's talk about what is, and going deeper into that kind of fractal presence, and being in the observation. When observation wants to go way out into creating that story and grabbing onto that emotion and creating another story around that.
You know, it really, for me, comes back to the idea of step-by-step. Whenever I feel overwhelmed, I realize step-by-step is my solution. Because that overwhelm comes out of biting off more than you can chew, going into outcome even instead of the moment, and and finding that way to just say, wait a sec, what is true now? And I think it was the warrior last night that was just like, what's going on with the bottom of your feet? Right?
Yeah.
What's just going on with the bottom of your feet? Which is a question you can always answer, whether you're sitting, walking, laying in bed, whatever you're doing. They were so funny. They're like, even if your feet are up in the air for some reason. Like,
that was so funny.
Outrageous. Even if your feet are up in the air, you can still ask what's going on with them. Oh, Lord, we know what you've been up to. But yeah, I think I think there's a real strength in that that awareness of now, of not taking too much, of not going into outcome, of, you know, like the song said, slow down, right? Just slow down. You move too fast. You're getting out ahead of yourself and finding places to be fearful of. You know, when I was a kid, we had our elementary school, I don't know if this is common or not, but the way the elementary school was set up is first, second, and third grade was on one side of the parking lot, and fourth, fifth, and sixth grade was on the other side. It was divided by a U-shaped parking lot. But all of the ball fields and the playground was combined in the sense that you could walk to it. But the big kids had their big kid playground, and the little kids had their little kid playground. And here I am, little overachiever, you know, in second grade, staring out at the big kids, not wishing I could go on their monkey bars or play games with them. No. Wondering or being afraid because I knew I couldn't do their homework.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I used to do. Because I used to sit there going, I can't do their work. I know I can't do their homework. It's too hard for me. So that, I think, is an exact example of what you're talking about, that idea of getting way out ahead of yourself and then letting what you find there terrify you.
Well, there's an element of that for sure, but there's also an element of something that had been sitting inside my body for a long, long time that began to move with the shifts that we've all been working on with these tools. And as it moved, it's like this door opened up inside of me with this pocket of old stuff. And all of the emotions that came up were old emotions. And I clearly could be tempted to go into that. And, in fact, for a short period of time, I was. And I started reacting with the crazy Missy. And I was able to catch that and go, wait a minute, let's observe this and begin to watch this move and see what happens as this fear moves to another level and create a different way of being in this moment with this as it is moving on. That was the big key for me. And what happened is it's still in change. It's, you know, I love, one of the most freeing things of late has been, I don't know anything. And I'm so grateful to let myself off the hook with that tool, because I don't know. I have no idea where this is going, but something is shifting. And I've really been using also the gift that the guardians have given us to help with the clearing. I think that's part of what is tied into this, is that I've been saying, yeah, show up. I'm ready to clean out these pockets that I don't want to take with me anymore. And so I don't know where it's going from here. And I also really appreciated that last night they said, hey, we're going to drop back in. You're going to drop back into level 2. Don't beat yourself up. Don't think we're beating you up. It's going to happen. Just use the tools and try to move on. That's kind of the I'm in.
Yeah, and that's that's what I was, as you were saying that last part there, I was realizing that you're in a position to observe those old fears almost as if they're an alternate expression, right? You can observe them because it's like you're not part of who I am now, but you're part of a version of me, and it may be the 10 years ago version of you instead of the 5 lifetimes ago version of you. Same thing, right? You can watch it as though it's not you, it's a version of you that you no longer are. Like when you're looking in your closet and you're like, those clothes don't even represent who I want to be anymore. Those are the clothes that don't represent me. And these are the clothes that do represent me. But you still can touch the clothes and see the clothes and know they're there. You just don't put them on and take them out into the world with you. Same with the fears that you're talking about.
That is such a great point. I love that. And what it brings up for me as you say that, Veronica, is this is one I don't go notebook about unless I feel stuck. This is one I set it down and I walk away. I don't have to pick this up and try to analyze this old fear pattern. I just need to say, I let it go, and I'm going to continue to let it go when remnants come up.
Beautiful. Well done.
Yeah, really.
Well done,
we
you.
Are.
Thanks,
guys.
Thank you
Love
for participating.
Great show.
Yay, so grateful you called. Thanks so much. Have a beautiful day.
You guys too.
I got to learn not to hang up on people, huh? Well, Miss Sue, what a fun first show, huh?
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Really cool. We haven't exactly figured out our schedule of shows. Our intention is definitely to have at least one a month, and we'll be sure to announce it on Facebook, and Blog Talk will probably tell you as well. As we said, we're still getting used to a few of the things that it does. Wanted to remind you of a few things. Not tomorrow. It feels like tomorrow, but it's not. Sunday is our live Q&A with Eloheim. And those of you who aren't familiar with that, what we do is you guys submit questions by email, and Eloheim answers them live. We have a great time at the Q&A. It happens once a month on the third Sunday. I just put the link there for you to learn more or to listen live. If you want to ask a question, you need to register or join us as a subscriber. We'd really love it if you became a subscriber. You know, a lot of the stuff we do, we offer to the public at no cost, but it certainly isn't free to do. There's expenses associated with it, and becoming a subscriber makes it possible for us to do that. This is the way I pay my bills and earn my living. So if you can contribute financially, it makes it possible for me to keep doing what I'm doing and do even more. We have so many ideas of things we want to offer, so please consider doing that. If you haven't watched last night's meeting, I've got it streaming for a short time. I let it stream for a short time, maybe the rest of today, something like that. I'm putting the link there in the chat room. You can catch that. A lot of people referred to it as they called in today. It was a fabulous event, and you can watch it there. And if you enjoy it, consider giving us a donation to help us keep doing that. That's all my PBS talk there, you know. A gift with they've got that whole spiel. Every time I say that stuff, I can just feel like I'm one of those talking heads on the public access channels. In conclusion, thank you everyone who called in and chatted in the chat room. It's just an absolute pleasure to interact with you guys this way. I have a clip I want to play as we leave the show. It's Eloheim in their final conversation, the final part of our conversation with fear. And they wrap it up so nicely. If you want to listen to Eloheim's full 53-minute discussion of fear, I'm going to put that link here. It's called Conversations with Eloheim. We have another conversation with Eloheim coming up. We're going to record it at the end of this month about money, so that'll be very interesting. But if you want to hear the entire recording of the fear conversation, I put it there for you guys to click on. Parting thoughts, Sue?
No. But keep calling. Call often. We love hearing from you. So
it's really sweet to hear from you guys. And no. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. And again, our website is Eloheim.com. That's ELOHEIM. And here is Eloheim discussing fear. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks again.
What about feel the fear and do it anyway?
It's you're going to feel fear, so get on with your life, was what we would say. You're going to feel fear. And it's not so much, feel the fear and do it anyway is kind of that courageous thing, right? I'm going to be courageous in this moment.
Great.
Whereas for us, as a life mantra kind of a thing, it's, yes, I'm going to be fearful. It's powerful and really important to accept what is. I am experiencing fear, and I get to make some choices about how I'm going to interact with this fear. It's probably a great thing to leave you with is, how are you going to interact with your fear? And fear will make you feel disempowered if you let it, and fear can also be the driving force behind extreme empowerment if you allow it. It's that choosing to say, this action into this anxiety, worry place is so familiar, I can do it with my eyes closed. However, it doesn't give me an enjoyable life. I'm ready to have a different life. How can I have a different life? When I interact with my fears, I can have a different reaction. You can. We're giving you lots of ways today, lots of ways to have a different reaction to the fear that you're going to have. Don't fall for the idea that you shouldn't have fear and something's wrong with you. And if you feel it, it's as valid as anything, right? We have this idea that it's called the math problem. And if we asked you what 9,457,652.5 times 368,852.7 is, you wouldn't take the first answer that comes to your head. Right? Not if anything mattered about it. Yet, you'll take the first emotion that floats by and grab a hold of it as if it was a gift that you would never give up. And typically that's a fear. And you say, it's here, so it must be real. And the truth of the matter is, it's here, so your interaction with it is a choice. Make the choice for consciousness, have a different relationship with your fears, and do it again, and again, and again.
Feeling seem just a little too long, too wide, too steep, and you can't get to the other side. Close your eyes, you can take yourself there to the other side. What you were feeling, you were believing. What you believing, you better be feeling. It's like a warm embrace, we kiss on the cheek, makes your knees weak. That's all that we seek, just a little smile that lasts for a while. Things like that, times like these, and there's nothing more than this. And there's nothing more than this. So if you ask me which way to run, or if you say, hey, just what do you mean? All I can show you